Okay, hi my loves. Welcome back to another episode of So Alli. Now, I am sorry that we've taken a little bit of a break over the last few weeks, but to be honest, I actually wrote this episode weeks and weeks ago, and I was pretty ready to film it, and then I went to film it, and then I just felt, I guess, emotionally not in the best headspace to sit down and share this story and go back through all this stuff that I've been through in the last few years of my life. So I just needed to take a little bit of a mental break, but we're back. We're better than ever. And we're going to get into it today because now I have looked back on the app, I've rewritten it, and now I feel like I'm definitely in the place to sit down and share with you guys. Today we're back for another solo episode, and this one is going to be super vulnerable. It might be a little emotional, so bear with me. But I wanted to do this episode because it has been highly requested by a lot of you. So today I definitely just wanted to sit down, share my story, share the crazy shit that I have been through in the last few years of my life. I want to sit down and share it in hopes that it could help at least one of you or encourage one of you to share your story too. And like I always say, if I can help at least one of you, I have done my job. So I'll stop yapping. Let's go ahead and dive into my journey of breaking, healing, and pretty much rebuilding my life. So to sum the whole thing up and to start this episode and tell you what I'm going to be talking about, a few years ago, I broke my neck. Yes, you heard that right. I broke my neck, and that was a result of diving into a shallow pool drunk. Yes, I was drunk. And I'm only kind of laughing about it now because if I don't laugh, I cry. I always say that since this happened, I have cried enough tears to fill up the pool that I dove into. I guess the craziest thing about this whole story is that the actual neck break was not necessarily the hardest part of this whole story. It was what happened before the neck break and what's been happening after. Now, I want you guys to know this episode isn't just about the bad things, about the trauma, the heartbreak. It's also about rebuilding your life when you feel like everything's falling apart, because that's exactly what I've done. And also the journey of finding yourself again. I just want to sit here and share my personal experience. A few deep breaths before we start. Where do I even start? I feel like we need to break it down into like steps. Like step 1, step 2, step 3. So yeah, let's get into it, guys. Now, all of this was quite a few years ago now, and it's going to be super interesting to, I guess, sit down and unpack it all because this is all stuff that I've done very deeply and very internally over the last few years. So where does this story begin? It all started with a not so fun breakdown of my relationship in 2021. The most confusing, insane, intense, emotional relationship that I have ever endured. I guess you could say it was a handful of the good, the bad, the ugly. It does feel honestly like a lifetime ago, but this was the start of the story. And for me, the last few years have just gone like that, like way too quickly because of everything that I've been going through. Ultimately, I was in a relationship in 2021, which I did feel like was a little bit of a narcissistic relationship. And before I get into all of this, I just want to say I'm not here to label anyone, to diagnose anything. I'm not a professional. I'm just sharing my thoughts and feelings from my heart and my experience. And also just get into what I have come to understand about it all. Like when I look back on it all now with a lot more clarity. If any of this resonates with you guys, that is what matters to me. So take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I do think it's important for me to sit down and talk about the certain patterns that I felt like I didn't have the language for at this time in my life. One of those was being in a relationship that I felt to be very narcissistic. And when I say that, I mean a dynamic where over time, it just everything becomes very confusing, toxic, and insane, to say the least. And you slowly start to lose yourself in the process. And I absolutely did. I completely lost myself. During a relationship like this, they definitely can start influencing, I guess, your day-to-day choices with maybe a little manipulation, a little control. You begin you just begin second guessing yourself and you adjust your behavior to keep the peace, which in the end, this is definitely what I found myself doing. But these are things that I definitely didn't realize while I was in it. I didn't really realize until I was far enough away from the situation and far enough removed and done enough, I guess, personal work and a fuck ton of reflection. There were moments in this relationship where I dead set started questioning my own reality. I don't know if anyone has been through a relationship or been in a relationship like this, but there was definitely a lot of, that didn't happen, or you're overreacting, or you cry too much, or you're too sensitive, or why would you wear that in front of my friends, and all this all this sort of chat. And when you're in a relationship with someone that you love so much, like this guy and I, we were so like dead set addicted to each other and so insanely in love that it drives you fucking mental. And you don't rationalize things properly. You don't even think twice. But when all that stuff was going on, and after hearing that stuff enough, you start to believe it. So no matter what was said and what was getting thrown around in arguments and whatnot, I genuinely started to believe it. And I think the scariest part about all of this is that you don't really realize that you're losing yourself while it's happening because you're so caught up in the whirlwind of it all. In the end, I feel like I stopped trusting my own instincts. I felt anxious all the time. And sometimes I was convinced that, the mean things that were thrown around in heated arguments and things that he had said to me, like that he was right, and all the things that he'd say to my face, I would just genuinely believe them in the end. I was constantly trying to be a version of myself that was right for him, the perfect girl for him, and maybe not for me. But I definitely was also going through a difficult time in my life during that relationship, which just timing was definitely not on our side. I was young. My parents were going through a divorce. I was experimenting. I was partying. So I was still trying to figure out who I was. And it runs like so deep. And I won't bore you guys with the details because we'll get into the actual moral of this story. To sum up the relationship now, it was so many years ago, but it is such a pivotal part of my life, my journey, my story. And I do believe everyone goes through everything for a reason. It taught me a lot. I think it taught him a lot also. At this rate, you can't regret this sort of thing. And in case you guys are wondering, me and this guy have been in touch since very, very recently, as of last night, which is a little bit of tea. And guys, I think you've got to either forgive and forget, or, life's too short. It's nice to talk about these things. Sometimes you can either spend the rest of your life hating them for everything, or you can talk about it openly, discuss, make up, wish you well, all is good. So you might be thinking and wondering, Ali, how the hell does this story tie into you breaking your neck? So let's break it down. In the end, he was the one to end it. And I had never felt a heartbreak like that. I think it hurt so bad because by that point, we were so addicted to each other in the most toxic way possible. We were so emotionally and physically tied to each other at that point because of everything that we went through together. But inevitably, in the end, it just became so emotionally exhausting for the two of us. By the time it ended, I wasn't just heartbroken, but I was completely disconnected from who I was. And it was a really, really bizarre feeling. And I think that if there is anyone that has been through a relationship like this crazy roller coaster, and you change and you lie and you do literally crazy shit because you're so in love. I was lost and broken, to say the least. And instead of dealing with that, I ran from it. I ran from those bad feelings as far as I could because I couldn't deal with the pain. So I think I did everything wrong. And that is where the next chapter begins. Strap in, my loves. Step 2, the accident. Sounds so dramatic. So after the relationship ended, I was in a really, really fragile place. Even if I didn't fully admit that to myself at the time, I didn't want to face the music. And instead of slowing down and really dealing with what I was going through and facing that pain head on, I did the opposite. which I do not recommend, guys. I don't know if any of you guys do this too, but I distracted myself from the pain in every way physically possible. I partied, I went out, I seeked any kind of escape, any kind of escape that I could. I just kept moving forward, honestly, just pretending like none of it ever happened. I was like, let's just keep charging forward because what else am I supposed to do? And I do remember this one night like so clearly because it ended up changing everything. I had made plans for myself. Someone had asked me on a date. I just wanted to feel normal again or just feel something different. So at this time, my ex and I were still talking. We were dragging it out for as long as we possibly could. And so, long story short, or should I say short story long, when I first went out with this guy that asked me on a date, mind you, he was the guy that I ended up breaking my neck with. But on this night, I got a message from my ex that basically said, if you go tonight, there is no chance for us. We're over for good and don't ever talk to me again, etc., etc. And I remember exactly how that made me feel. I just remember reading it when I was in the bathroom getting dressed. I was like curling my hair for this other date, just trying to like go and distract myself. And it was hard. I felt like I was still controlled and still so tied to him that it was a really difficult decision for me to make. But for the first time, I didn't choose that. I chose to go on the date anyway. I am such a chronic oversharer. I feel like I'm saying way too much right now. So at this moment, it took so much for me to, I guess, step up and go on this date with this random guy instead of seeing the ex. I think it was kind of my attempt to try and take a little bit of power back in the situation. So for that, at the time, I felt proud, but I was numbing myself so hard with just dates and partying that I couldn't even tell you what I was feeling or thinking during that time. And so I went, we had the date, it was good, and then we went on another date a few days later. And that night, my friends, was the night I broke my neck. And I recently heard that some people were saying things, when they found this out, they were saying things like it was karma and that maybe I deserved it because I led myself there. And I'll tell you what, that hurt. That fucking really hurt. Hurt me real bad. And I just want to say this, there is nothing karmic about going through something that was as traumatic as what I went through. Going through something that was so life-altering and life-threatening was just insane, to say the least. This happened in a moment in my life where I was hurting in every way possible. I was hurting. I was not coping. And then things just ended up going horribly, horribly wrong. If anything, what this accident really showed me was how far that I had actually been pushed away from myself and disconnected from myself because of that relationship and because of everything we went through together. And I guess it taught me how much I needed to stop and come back to myself again. So let me tell you the story. On October 2nd, 2021, I dove into a shallow pool, drunk, hit my head on the bottom and broke my neck, fractured it in 2 places. But the craziest part about the story is that I actually didn't end up finding out that my neck was broken until December 31st, 2021. So I was walking around going about my life, not knowing that my neck was broken for 3 months. For 3 months. So let's start from the start. I went on a date in Burleigh with this guy that I mentioned. We met up with his friends. We were having a great night. Of course, we had one too many cocktails, maybe one too many espresso martinis. And after being out and about, we all just decided to go back to his place, his apartment. And what did? We all decided to go swimming, as you do when you're drunk. Why, when we're drunk, do we feel like we can just go jump in the ocean naked or just like go swimming fully clothed and think it's a fucking great idea? It happens every time. So we all go swimming in his apartment building pool. There was another girl there who dove in before me and she was fine. Like I saw her dive literally head first. She came to the top, was totally fine. And my drunk ass obviously thought that I would also be fine. Having a swimming background, I was a swimmer when I was a kid. I just thought, yeah, of course. Like you don't think twice. Like you just dive into a pool like it's nothing. But mind you, it was dark and you could not see the bottom. It was one of those nights where I didn't even have togs, so I think I was wearing a shirt of his and like my underwear, just trying to look like cute and sexy and whatever, as you do when you're on a date. I dove in the pool head first, just like a regular dive, and I struck my head on the bottom, and oh my God, I get like shivers down my spine and down my legs when I talk about this story, because I remember it all so clearly. So I hit my head on the bottom. I knew I had. What I do remember from the head knock, which I was obviously like concussed or something too. So I hit my head on the bottom. I blacked out. I literally saw pitch black in my eyes. I saw these, it was almost like stars. It felt like glitter. It was like lots of white lights, like glitter, like raining down from the sky or something. So it was black and I just saw stars, which is so, so strange. I would love to know if anybody else knows of anyone that has done this sort of thing and hit their head somewhere and broken bones. But for me, it was insane. Blacked out, saw these stars, and I heard a really, 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 really high-pitched noise. It was like ringing in my head. And I could not tell you how long that went on for or how long I was under the water for, because it was a really, really weird feeling. And me, being the silly gal that I am, I'm thinking I'm on a date. I come to the top, the blackout, the ringing, the stars end. I come to the top of the pool and I pretend like nothing happened, which is ridiculous because I was like, oh, I've got to play this off. Like, I've got to impress this guy. So I'm like, oh, no, I still look cute. I look sexy. I just dove in the pool. Everything's fine. I came to the top and I remember feeling really sort of lightheaded, like, whoa. And then at this point, he was already in the pool. He must have come in. So, yeah, I don't know how long I was under the water for. I think I tried to stay under for a little bit longer for it to all end and the spinning to just end at that point. So I came to the top. He came over to me and he's like, yeah, you're all good. And I was like, yeah, of course, duh. Which clearly I absolutely fucking wasn't. So after that, in my eyes, all was fine. Like, we were just chilling, we were drinking. There was also a sauna at the apartment building and we had like this really nice bottle of tequila. We were literally doing body shots in the sauna. So like, mind you, my neck is like severely broken. Like, I could have turned my head in any sort of direction and paralyzed myself at that instant. So I'm there, I'm doing body shots in the sauna with a fully broken neck. Like, what the fuck? So that night ends. Everything is good. The day went well. We had fun with his friends and I ended up staying at this apartment building that evening. In my eyes, everything was okay until I woke up in the morning and I could not sit up. Like, I was laying down and I went to sort of sit up and get out of bed and everything hurt. It was like every muscle and bone in my body just hurt. And in my head, I knew it was because of when I hit my head and my body was obviously going into damage control, and it was so incredibly sore and it felt like my neck was really, really jarred. Like, I just felt stuck. My entire body felt stuck. I couldn't turn my head to the left or to the right. I was freaked. But I definitely didn't think my neck was broken. I just thought I had, like really badly jarred it. And that morning, this guy was like, yeah, let's get up, let's go to breakfast. And usual me, of course, would get up and go to breakfast in any other situation. But I ended up having to make up some lie just to get out of there because I knew something was wrong with me and I didn't feel good in any way. So I'm pretty sure I said I had like a meeting or a family lunch or something fucking to go to that day because I was like, I have to get out of here and figure out what's going on. So I then get up pretty early. I'd call an Uber and go straight to mum's house because I just felt off. Something was just totally off. And my nana was staying with mum at the time. And I walk in and they're like, oh, how was the date? You had a big night, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yes, date was great. 2, yes, had a big night. 3, I think I've done something really bad to my neck. And mum and nana were like, no, I'm sure you're fine. Because I, guilty, am such an exaggerator and a very detailed storyteller that they thought I was just exaggerating. They dead set thought I was just exaggerating. I was like, no, I've done something really bad. Like, I can't move my head left or right. Like, I'm stuck and it hurts. We honestly didn't really think much of it. Time marches on from that point and you wouldn't You wouldn't believe it. You cannot make this shit up. But the fact from that moment on, I didn't know my neck was broken for 3 months. Huh? Like how does that happen? I have some serious angels on my side. So for context, I work out every day. So I was going to Pilates every day. I was running every morning because I was in this like post-breakup, like revenge body type workout routine and diet and all this stuff. So I was just like going crazy. Like I was working out like an animal and doing all of that with a broken neck. Some would say I was a walking miracle, and at this rate I believe that. But I just have absolutely no idea how I got so lucky or how that even happens, or like the miracle of the human body. Like how does that happen? And one of the craziest parts about all this is that at this time, like during this time, I was seeing a physio, which is insane. Like if I went to a chiropractor and they did something, like they would have paralyzed me. So anyway, I was seeing this physio and he was just amazing with everything. But when I went to see him and we spoke about the story, like there were no signs of a fracture. Like I had no pins and needles down my arms. I had no tingly feelings in my legs. Like we just didn't do an x-ray because it just seemed like I'd badly jarred it. Like it was so great that my neck would even feel like relieved after seeing him. So we just didn't think anything was wrong. So guys, like after months and months of just going about my life, exercise, physio, all the above, I feel like this might have been the crux and what triggered me to go and get the x-ray. So about a week or two before I got the x-ray on December 31st, New Year's Eve, one of my best friends, Maddie, she'd come over. She was so amazing. She was always coming over and trying to make me happy during this neck break and bringing board games and all this fun stuff to do. And she brought over a game, you know that one that I think they used to play it on like Ellen, where you put the mouthpiece in your mouth and it opens your mouth like really, really wide. And you have to try and say things or guess what people are saying with that mouthpiece in. It's hilarious. So she brings this around. We were having a few drinks. Everything felt totally normal. And then as you do when you're having a few drinks, you do dumb shit. Like when I dove into the pool, I decided to stand on my head. Now there is a video of it. I don't know if I want to put it into the podcast because it might be triggering, knowing that my neck was completely broken. Like I'm talking a headstand. Like this isn't a handstand. I'm not on my hands. I'm up against the wall doing a headstand with the mouthpiece, trying to do all the sayings and whatnot. And we thought it would be funny to try and like drink wine upside down while I was standing on my head. So silly. I mean, fun if your neck wasn't broken, but for me, so silly. But I had no idea. So on New Year's Eve, it was morning. All my friends were getting ready. We were going to go to this big New Year's Eve party at Mexicali, which is like this cute little Mexican restaurant in Nobby's Beach on the Gold Coast. And we were like calling each other and planning what we were going to wear and blah, blah, blah. And then I was sitting on the couch just like texting my friends and I started to get really severe pins and needles. Ugh, I remember the feeling down my legs and I was like, this isn't good. This isn't good. Like that's not a normal feeling. Like I just kind of felt a little bit, not numb, but it was like this tingly like pins and needles feeling down my legs and it kind of just wouldn't stop. And at this time, my neck was still hurting. I still couldn't turn my head left or right because obviously my body was trying to like heal it over this time. So I knew something was wrong. So I called my GP and I was like, I know it's New Year's Eve, but I think I need to get an x-ray today. He was like, yes, of course. Let's get you in right now. You can't be risking this sort of thing. And I told him about the accident. And I think it's all started and stemmed from this. So I think it was like 10 a.m. on New Year's Eve. I drove to Q-Scan. And when you get an x-ray, usually if all is well and all is clear and fine, they just come out and like, yeah, you're free to go, whatever. You get the results. Like, it's not a big deal. Like they quickly look over it. I knew something was wrong when my radiographer took, oh my God, so long. I was sitting in the waiting room and it took them so long to come out and give me the clear to go. So I deep down had a feeling that something was wrong because my body wasn't feeling right at all. It's so crazy. Like he comes out, he looks at me and he had like tears in his eyes. Like he had tears starting to well up and said, Ali, basically said to me, please sit there and do not move a muscle. Your neck is fractured in 2 places. C6 and T1. I just had no idea what any of that meant. And he took me into the computer to show me where it was broken and what had happened. And he had showed me on the x-rays that there was this kind of like blurry mass around where the two fractures were, like where these two little chips were out of my neck. Explained to me that the blurriness was that my neck had actually started to heal itself over the last few months. And he just sort of said to me, because I went there in activewear, like I'd come straight from Pilates, and he just said to me, like, you're telling me you went for a run this morning? Like you went to Pilates this morning? And I'm like, yeah. Like I fully burst into tears when he's like, don't move, your neck is broken. Like it was just the most bizarre, wild feeling and realization, because it didn't actually feel real, because I had been going about my life for so long. I almost didn't believe him. So pretty much immediately he had called an ambulance, and straight away I was put into a soft neck brace in the back of an ambulance, and then we had to go to the hospital for more scans, MRIs, CTs, the works. And I just remember being in the back of that ambulance and reflecting on everything that had happened over the last few months, like the relationship, the breakup, the partying, the neck break. And I was just laying there and just looking at the ambulance roof, making small talk with the paramedic in the back. And I was just like, what? I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. I couldn't stop crying. At this rate, you know, the only thing I was thinking about was the relationship with my ex. I was just like, I just want to call him. I had no idea where he was. I think he's overseas on a boys' trip of some sort. Anyway, it was really, really emotional and difficult to work through. So I got to the hospital and then I was there for hours. I had to call my friends and let them know that I wasn't going to be going to this party tonight. And you know what? Thank God I didn't end up going to that New Year's Eve party, because if I was just dancing or doing anything, or if I fell, or no matter what, I could have paralyzed myself at any moment. And that is what I came to learn when the doctors came when the neurosurgeon came and spoke to me at the hospital after he reviewed all of my extensive scans. Him and my GP had basically said to me, you don't have to have surgery, because my neck had started to heal itself, which is an absolute miracle. And they said if I had gone to the hospital the night it happened, I would have been in immediate surgery and in a hard halo brace, which would have been really, really horribly scary. So I don't know how I got so lucky to escape the surgery and stay on my feet for 3 months. But yeah, I was sitting there with my mum. It was almost midnight. It was really late at night. He said, well, we're going to put you in a hard brace. It was like this huge dinosaur looking ass neck brace. Like it was so ugly, so big, so hard and uncomfortable and crazy. And it's like, yep, you're going to have to be in this for the next 6 months. You can only take it off to shower. But when you do shower, you need a stool to sit on, and you have to stay as still as possible, but you have to sleep in it. To me, it was mind blowing. I had no idea that this is what my life was going to look like for the next year of my life, because everything was okay. I was doing my daily routine. I was going about my life. To me, it was just wild. And after he had reviewed all the scans, he told me that I was 2 millimeters away from being paralyzed from the neck down. 2 millimeters. Do you know how scary that is? Like for me, that was so scary. And they had told me that I had basically done a near perfect dive into the pool, which is actually really quite funny to think about, because I'm like, well, maybe my swimming background came in handy, that the fact that I landed directly in the middle of my head, like my skull, and that if I had landed a little bit to the left or to the right where I hit it, I would have been done and paralyzed from the neck down. It was so close to ticking over to being paralyzed that if I had sneezed, I could have paralyzed myself, which like all I can say now is how grateful I am that it wasn't worse. And when I shared it online, it was so eye-opening, and it opened this whole new portal to all these different people and all these different stories, and everyone was commenting on my post, like once I had shared what had happened to me, you know, if they had known someone that had done the same thing, you know, diving into a shallow pool or a sandbank or a surface where you can't see the bottom, and done the same thing and ended up paralyzed either from the waist or neck down. So this is why, like, my biggest thing now and everything that I preach is just Do not dive into a body of water if you cannot see the bottom. Like, you don't understand how dangerous it is, because every time I went to my neck scans, the neurosurgeon's office, anytime I went anywhere, everyone in there that was in a neck brace or in a halo or in a wheelchair, I had spoken to them about what happened and what was the accident. And majority of them were either diving into a sandbank, diving into a shallow pool, a lake, anywhere where you can't see the bottom, and just hitting their head. Do not do it, no matter how many espresso martinis you've had. Just feet first. I actually haven't even dove into a pool since this happened, like head first. This was 5 years ago now. Like, this was a long time ago. Every single pool that I've gotten in since, it's a feet first affair. And it was so crazy because after some time, I decided to go back to the apartment building, to the pool that I dove into, because it's on the bottom floor. You can see it. It's in Burleigh. It's like the building across from the Burleigh Pavilion. And I went to have a look at it in the daylight, and I was with my mum, and I just sort of looked at it. It looked completely different, obviously, in the daylight. And I looked at the pool, and it was so goddamn shallow. It was 1 meter deep. Like, there was signs that said shallow, 1 meter deep, that I obviously couldn't see at the time. And I saw it and I was like, no one would ever dive into that pool if they saw how shallow it was. Like, it was like a hotel plunge pool. Like, you're not diving into that shit. So yeah, to wrap it all up, I was put in this huge green neck brace. That was for about 6 months with constant x-rays, a lot of work, a lot of alone time, a lot of sadness. And then after that, once I got cleared of the neck brace, I was then put into a soft collar that I was in and out of for another 6 months. So it was a very, very difficult and excruciating year of my life. It's nice to actually sit here and talk about it now and smile and sort of have a few laughs about it, because for a long time it wasn't funny and it wasn't something I was smiling about very often. Oh, and by the way, to totally top things off, this was like still peak COVID time. So you still had to quarantine if you got COVID, like at the end of 2021 leading into 2022. So I'm put in the hard brace. I come home to my apartment. I actually made it home to my apartment right before the New Year's Eve fireworks. Like, it was right before midnight, and I was actually sitting on my balcony in my neck brace with a glass of champagne watching the fireworks and just sort of thinking, what is my life and what is my life going to look like for the foreseeable future? It was a very bizarre feeling, and I just ended up having to call all my friends and family and explain to them what had happened, and everyone was just as mind blown as me. The next day I woke up feeling really, really, really sick. So I'm sleeping in my neck brace, but I felt achy and awful, and I had the flu, and I ended up doing a COVID test that day. Turns out I had contracted COVID in the hospital that night that I was in there. So then I had to end up spending the first 2 weeks alone in my apartment, alone quarantining because I obviously wasn't allowed any visitors, and you had to quarantine at that time. So yeah, that was incredibly hard, incredibly hard. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't cook. I couldn't move. I wasn't really allowed to get off the couch. I'd been instructed that I wasn't allowed to go for walks. I couldn't do any exercise of any kind. Like, it was pretty serious. But like I said before, all I can do now is look back on it and feel extremely grateful that the result of the pool dive wasn't worse. But hey, like, now all in all, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm walking, and I really don't take that lightly anymore. I feel incredibly lucky, like truly incredibly lucky, that I'm able to say that I'm okay now, because I truly, truly wasn't for quite some time. To have a second chance at my life is something I will never, ever, ever take for granted again. It's something that I definitely carry with me every day now. I just have a lot more awareness now and a lot more compassion for people that are going through or have been through something horribly worse or much more longer lasting, because I know how difficult it was for me just over that year in that brace and what I had to go through and what I had to endure. But all I think about is people that have it worse, and my heart just aches and breaks for those people, and like all my love and all my heart and soul go out to those people, because it's life altering. More deep breaths. All right, so that wraps up, I guess, the neck chapter. That is the story of how I broke my neck. And then that moves into step 3, and that is the depression, which, like I said, I've touched on it in different podcasts and things over time, but never really dove into the reason for it, how it came about, how I felt, how I'm doing now. So I thought, what better time to dive into it with you guys? So yeah, diving into the next phase and the next year of my life was something I totally wasn't prepared for. I think something that definitely doesn't get talked about enough is that when you go through a serious physical injury like that, it's not just physical, like it's mental. If anything, it's more mental than it is physical in a way. And again, I'm sure if there's anyone that's been through this sort of thing or been through or had a really difficult injury, they would understand exactly what I mean. Because it's the little things you don't think about when these injuries happen and the things that you don't anticipate, like small things like just getting out and going for a walk, like your daily routines, or getting coffee with a friend, or just moving your body or doing what makes you happy on a daily. Because when something like this happens, it's just instantly all taken away from you. And for me, guys, that was really difficult because you don't realize that your lifestyle just, like, everything just changes overnight. You really have like a complete loss of control. And when everything is forced to slow down like that, you are left with nothing but yourself and your thoughts. So in these moments, everything that I had been avoiding prior to the accident, the feelings, the pain, it caught up with me literally all at once. Like everything just caught up with me all at once. And yeah, that was the beginning of the next very different but very difficult chapter for me. Very different chapter for you, girl. Losing my physical strength during this was one thing, but losing my mental strength and losing my sense of self was totally something I was completely not prepared for. Understandably then, and after all those months and the year of the neck, I could say, I went to a pretty dark place mentally. The year following the neck break was one of the hardest of my life. But I was definitely struggling a whole lot more than I let on. Everything at that time just felt heavy. Life felt heavy. I felt heavy. Everything felt heavy. Like everything was just harder than it should have been or it had ever felt like before. I lacked motivation. I was disconnecting from my friends and family. Like I was isolating myself. I didn't want to go out. It was in that moment that I then came to realize I had fallen into a pretty deep and dark depression, and that I realized that that's what I was feeling. I tried a lot of things. I tried medication, but I really didn't like the way that it made me feel in the end. Yeah, so forgive me for reading off the palm cards at this point, guys, because I definitely want to get my story straight. And it is quite emotional to talk about, so I just kind of wanted to put it all on paper, sit down, talk it out, even though I've talked it out a million times, but just not publicly before. So thank you guys for sitting with me. So I ended up deciding to go off the medication and fight my way out of it because I ended up realizing that no one was going to come and save me. I was going to be the only person that was going to be able to drag me out of this rut that I was in and this sadness and this darkness that I was in. I knew I was my only savior. I definitely knew there was work to be done, and I knew I had to start showing up for myself. And it's exactly what I did. After all of this, I'll tell you what feels fucking incredible to say. Like, I'll tell you what, it feels so amazing to say right now in this moment. I feel happier and stronger than I've quite literally felt ever in my whole life, because I got through it. Like, I got through it when at the time I never thought that I would find that kind of happiness that I used to feel again. And yeah, I just thought that there was no way out. And now I'm here. And because of all these things that I've been through, it has given me the craziest next level strength that if I didn't go through all of it, I wouldn't be feeling this way now. It feels so good to say that I am here, I am free, and I have never felt more me. But trust me, that came with a lot of hard work and a lot of damn time. But I want to sit here and say to you guys, if any of you are going through something similar mentally, physically, if you're feeling down, if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I want to tell you guys that the light is at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it right now. And you can do it. You can do it, because I did. So trust me on that, because I was the biggest case study in feeling like I could never get out, and I did. I'm here and I've never felt better. So I just want to say to you guys, trust me, you can. You can do it. And you'll come out stronger, better, and happier than you ever were before. And in terms of battling the depression, I wish I could say there was one moment that just like clicked for me and everything was just miraculously better. But honestly, it didn't happen like that, and it can't happen like that. So for me, it started really small. It started with really small steps. It started with small everyday wins, like getting out of bed when the alarm clock goes off, you know, not hitting snooze, getting up, getting to the gym once I was physically able, of course, but then that did take some time. But yeah, just simple things like getting up out of bed, seeing a friend for coffee, going for a walk, walking the dog, whatever. So after all of this, I really felt like I had to re-meet myself in a way, because it really did feel like I was starting again. Like I felt like since the breakup to the neck to the depression, it was like this whole thing had happened and I'd been through all this stuff. And then I sort of woke up to myself and started to feel good again and thought, damn, like I have to start again. And I went quite a few years without working. So I lost sense of the things that I loved the most, you know, like getting up and hosting and socializing and going to events and working and all the above. I was kind of rid of all of that. So to not work and do all those things you love for so long, like it takes a huge toll. I really had to sit down with myself and figure out who I was without all the noise. Without the noise, the pain, the relationship, the distractions, all the above. Because that relationship and the injury really did destroy me in ways I just didn't see coming. And on a more positive note, slowly with time, I started to feel like I was gaining a sense of control again. Like not over everything, but over how I started showing up for me and for my life. I definitely started seeing things in my life really differently. Like the smaller things felt way bigger. Everything just had so much more meaning than it did before. And what I wrote down yesterday, and what I think I learned most through all of this, is that sometimes, more deep breaths, is that sometimes life somehow finds a way to break you out of a version of yourself you were never meant to stay in. And I think that's just what has happened with me. I wouldn't wish any of my experience on anyone, but I also cannot ignore how much it changed me. If you are in a heavy place right now, just know that you don't have to have it all figured out right now. This stuff takes time, and you just have to start by taking the small first step. I've now landed in a place that I am not the person that I was before. I am not the person that I was years ago in that relationship. And honestly, I'm really grateful for that. Like really grateful for that now. Because what felt like the end of everything actually might have been the start of my beginning. Does that make any sense? The end of the beginning, what's that song? But like seriously, what felt like the end of everything does now feel like it was the beginning of my next phase, my next chapter, my next book in this world. It really has felt like the beginning of me just coming back to myself, but an even better, stronger version of Alli. So we're nearing the end of this wild ride that has been my last few years. Thank you guys for listening and creating a safe space for me. But I just want to get into the last part of this story because we ain't done. I was then hit with something else completely. And remember, guys, I'm not sitting here just saying poor me and whatnot. I really just am sharing my story because it's been an absolute fucking doozy. So after everything, after all of this, I knew there had to be some sort of repercussion of the neck break. You know, I wasn't getting out that easy, just sitting in the neck break for 6 months or 12 months. And no, it wasn't easy. I should probably say that again. I knew there would be something that would come after. And I ended up getting diagnosed with something called trigeminal neuralgia at the end of 2024, which in simple terms, it's a nerve condition that affects the face. There's a nerve in your face called the trigeminal nerve, and when it's irritated or damaged, it can cause really, really intense and severe pain. It's a crazy one because for a lot of people, it shows up in like a really sudden, sharp, electric shock kind of pain. And this happens from little things, even just from like talking or brushing your teeth or putting makeup on, eating, or simply just like touching your face, or even a gust of wind. Like me fanning this palm card over the right side of my face triggers it because it's like this gust of wind, which I don't understand. I guess that's nerves. And for me, dealing with this personally, it has been nothing short of hell. Like I'm telling you, it is hell. So all the specialists I've seen and all the people that I've gone to see about this have told me that I've obviously damaged these nerves from my neck break because it's not common in young people, because trigeminal neuralgia is really common usually in women over 60. And I'm 28, so I should not have this, but clearly my nerves have been damaged. Yeah, it's obviously come as a result of my neck fracture. And to kind of try to explain it to you guys, and most people actually refer to this as one of the more painful conditions you can end up with because there is no cure, and it is something that once you have for life. Online, it's actually gotten to the point where it is now called the suicide disease, which sounds really intense, but it's because it's so painful, and the shocks and the like the outbreaks that you get, like the little phases and the triggers, like when it happens and when it comes, it is so painful. And because you never know when it's going to come, it's so painful, it's so excruciating and so debilitating in my experience. Like it's just debilitating. You can't do anything. You can't think of anything else. You're just sitting there in excruciating pain. So yeah, the first time I heard and read online that it was the suicide disease, I was really, really, really scared because I knew what I was in for. And to be honest, I was already feeling that level of pain that I cannot even describe to you. But now, having lived with it for a while and seeing lots of specialists and talking to a lot of people, I've now come to terms with the fact that it's something that I just have to live with now. And it's something that I'm going to have to deal with moving forward and try to figure out how to manage in the best way possible, figure out what my triggers are, figure out how to relieve the pain. And I'm sure I will make peace with it in time. But for right now, that is just something that I am battling. And the worst part about it is the only thing that takes away the pain is this medication called, God, I can't even remember now, amitriptyline or something like that. It's like a nerve pain relief. But when you take it, you feel so horrible and groggy and drowsy. So if I'm having an attack mid-morning and I'm working and I take one of these things, like I just feel like shit and sluggish. So, and if I take them overnight, I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm hungover, I'm drowsy, and I'm just not functioning at like my 110%. And a lot of doctors have told me that everyone feels the same way about this medication. Unfortunately, there's no other way to take away the pain or no better way to treat it. But for me, I would almost rather deal with the pain, as awful as it is, than feel this grogginess that comes with the medication. So yeah, this is just something that I am navigating right now, guys. But for now, I definitely just can't let it define my life because it's just something that I have to work with now. And honestly, after everything that I've been through in the last few years, I look at it like this, I will take the results of the neuralgia over the neck dive being worse. I'm still here. I'm still living my life. I can still walk. I'm happy. I'm healthy. And that's all that matters over anything, right? It has just taught me a serious and different kind of strength, but like not the loud kind of strength, but like I guess the quiet everyday kind where you just have to keep showing up. You just have to keep showing up for yourself and just know that life is good. I'm here and I have to keep moving forward because I don't have a choice. So guys, oh my God, we are coming to the end of this episode. Thank you for sitting with me and letting me sit here and vent. But looking back on everything that I have shared with you guys today, the relationship, the choices I made to cope after that, the accident, the recovery, the mental battles, and now learning to live with something ongoing, I can sit here and say, honestly, it has changed me in ways that I am still discovering and I'm still working through. It hasn't been linear and it definitely hasn't been easy. All in all, it's brought me back to myself. So guys, I hope you know now that I am officially in my comeback era because I have a new lease on life. I feel like I'm stepping into a new chapter now with so much more clarity, so much more strength, and a whole lot more perspective. And in other big positive and exciting news, guys, I am moving to Sydney. I have already lived in Sydney a few years ago. In LA before that. I've been all over. But I am now moving back to Sydney. Hell yeah. I'm so excited. I did want to do this a long time ago and I would have done it before I broke my neck, but neck sort of put a hold on things for a while. So yeah, I'm moving to Sydney. I feel like I've got this fresh new energy and this fresh new energy around life again. And it really now does feel like an exciting new beginning. So I wrote this down and I don't want to get it wrong, so I'll read it off my little palm card here. I've learned that life can break you, but it can also rebuild you, often in ways you never expected. That healing isn't about becoming who you were before, but becoming someone stronger, softer, and much more self-aware. That love should never cost you your sense of self. And that real strength is quiet. It's choosing to keep going because you deserve it. Let that sink in, guys. So yeah, guys, that wraps up that episode. I just want to thank you so much for letting me share this part of my life, this chapter, these last few years in my story. And it's really sweet and kind that you guys wanted to know about it. And I feel amazing to be able to sit here and share it and be vulnerable and let it all off my chest and let it all leave my body and like open, or I guess make space for my next chapter. But I really hope you guys have received today's episode, I guess, with love, with understanding. And I want to say, if this episode resonated with you in any way whatsoever, I hope you are reminded that you are not alone. Things will get better, even if it takes a long time, guys. Even if it takes a long damn time, it is worth it. You guys have got this. I got this. And it is time to close this book for good. Onwards and upwards, my friends. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. And until next time on So Alli.